The space station called Haven's Edge floated in the darkness between three great empires. It was not a beautiful place. Rusty metal walls leaked air in some sections. The lights flickered constantly, but it was safe from the wars that burned across the galaxy, and that made it valuable. Taewon walked through the crowded marketplace with his head high. He was tall, nearly 8 feet, and his obsidian scales reflected the dim station lights. His amber eyes scanned the crowd carefully. People moved out of his way. Everyone knew what a Dravik warrior looked like, and everyone feared them. He wore armor that was older than most of the people on this station. 17 generations of his family had worn it before him. The metal was scratched and dented from 1,000 battles, but it still worked. It still protected. That was all that mattered to Taewon now. A merchant tried to sell him food. Taewon shook his head and kept walking. He had enough supplies for another week, maybe 2 if he was careful. What he needed was work. Honest work. The kind that would not make him feel dirty afterward. That was harder to find than it should be. 3 years ago, Taewon had been a high knight of the Velkari Dominion. He had commanded ships. Soldiers had obeyed his every word. He had honor and respect and a future of glory. Then his commanders ordered him to destroy a civilian colony. Men, women, children, all of them guilty only of living on a planet the Dominion wanted. Taewon had refused. His second-in-command had not. The colony burned while Taewon was locked in his quarters for disobedience. When he was released, he took his armor and his blade and left. The Velkari called him a deserter. They put a price on his head, but they did not call him a murderer, and that was enough. Now he lived job to job, station to station, never staying anywhere long enough to make friends or enemies. It was lonely. But loneliness was better than dishonor. A message appeared on his wrist display. Someone was offering work. Medical transport escort through the creche sector. Payment in advance, no questions asked. The pay was good, too good. That usually meant trouble. Taewon accepted anyway. He needed the credits. The transport ship was small and old. The pilot was a nervous human woman named Young-suk, who talked too much and avoided eye contact. She said they were carrying medical supplies to a refugee camp. She said the route was dangerous because of pirates. She said a lot of things, and Taewon believed none of them. But she paid half the credits up front, and that was real enough. They flew for 2 days without incident. Taewon spent most of the time in the cargo hold, meditating in his armor. Young-suk brought him food and water and asked questions he did not answer. She seemed kind but frightened. He wondered what she was really transporting. On the 3rd day, they were attacked. But not by pirates. The ships that came out of hyperspace were Velkari military vessels. Fast attack cruisers with weapons that could tear through the transport shields in seconds. Young-suk screamed and tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The cruisers surrounded them and demanded they stop engines and prepare for boarding. Taewon felt his heart sink. Somehow they had found him. After 3 years of running, his past had caught up. He went to the cockpit and told Young-suk to let them board. She stared at him with wide eyes full of tears. "They'll kill me," she whispered. "They'll kill everyone." "What are you really carrying?" Taewon asked quietly. Young-suk hesitated, then hit a button. A hidden panel in the cargo hold opened. Inside was a small compartment barely large enough for a person. And inside that compartment was a child, a human girl, maybe 6 years old, with dark hair and frightened eyes. She was clutching a small data chip in one hand. On the back of her neck, Taewon could see neural implants, the kind used for experimental technology. The kind that was illegal in most of the galaxy. "Her name is Hana," Young-suk said. "Her parents were scientists. They died 3 months ago. People have been trying to kill her ever since. I was supposed to get her to safety, but..." She gestured at the Velkari ships surrounding them. The boarding tube connected with a heavy clang. Taewon heard boots on metal, dozens of soldiers entering the ship. He had perhaps 2 minutes to decide what to do. He looked at the girl. Hana stared back at him with those frightened eyes. She was trembling but not crying. Brave, he thought, or too scared to cry. "Stay here," he told Young-suk. Then he closed the cargo hold and went to meet the Velkari soldiers. They filled the narrow corridor, weapons raised. At the front stood Commander Sung-ho, Taewon's former mentor. The old Dravik's scales were silver with age and his eyes were hard. "Taewon," Sung-ho said, "I did not expect to find you here. This is fortune. Come back with us. All is forgiven. Your desertion, your dishonor, everything. Just give us what is on this ship." There is nothing here but medical supplies, Taewon said calmly. Sung-ho smiled. It was not a kind smile. We know about the child. The human girl with the modified brain. She is dangerous, Taewon. She carries information that could damage the Dominion. We must secure her. Secure or kill. Does it matter? Come with us. Return to honor. Return to glory. Give us the child and you will be a high knight again. You will have everything you lost. Taewon thought about that. 3 years of running, of loneliness, of barely surviving. He could have it all back. His rank, his honor, his place in the warrior caste. All he had to do was give them a 6-year-old girl. He thought about the colony he had failed to save. The faces of the dead that haunted his meditation. The weight of dishonor he had chosen rather than become a murderer. No, Taewon said. Sung-ho's expression hardened. Then you die with her. The soldiers raised their weapons. Taewon's hand moved to his blade. It was ancient, forged in ways no one remembered anymore, and it cut through modern armor like paper. He drew it in one smooth motion and stepped forward. What followed was quick and brutal. Taewon had trained these soldiers. He knew how they moved, how they thought. He killed the first 3 before they could fire. The corridor was too narrow for them to surround him. He used that, pushing forward, his blade singing through the air. Energy blast scorched his armor but did not penetrate. He reached Seung-ho and their blades met with a shower of sparks. The old Dravik was still strong, still skilled, but he had forgotten what it meant to fight for something more than orders. Taewon's blade found the gap in Seung-ho's armor, not to kill but to disable. The commander fell with a cry of pain. The remaining soldiers hesitated. Leave, Taewon said.
Or follow your commander to the floor. They left.
Taewon sealed the airlock behind them and cut the boarding tube. He ran to the cockpit where Young-suk was already firing the engines. The transport lurched away from the Velkari ships. Weapons fire chased them, but Young-suk was a better pilot than she looked. She dodged and weaved, heading for an asteroid field where the bigger ships could not follow. They crashed more than landed inside a derelict mining facility deep in the asteroids. The transport's engines were ruined, but they were alive. Young-suk immediately started working on long-range communications, trying to call for help. Taewon went to check on the girl. Hana was still in her hiding spot, still clutching the data chip. She looked up at him with those frightened eyes. Taewon knelt down slowly, making himself smaller, less threatening. His armor hissed as the joints bent. Are you going to hurt me too? Hana asked in a small voice. No, Taewon said. I will protect you. Why? It was a good question. Taewon did not have a good answer. He just knew that leaving this child to die was something he could not do. Would not do. Not again? Because it is right, he said finally. Hana studied his face, his scales, his glowing amber eyes. She had probably never seen a Dravik before. Most humans feared them. But slowly, carefully, she reached out and touched his hand. Her small fingers barely covered one of his claws. What's your name? She asked. Taewon. She tried to say it and frowned. That's hard. Can I call you Knight instead? Something in Taewon's chest felt warm. It was strange. He had not felt anything like it in years. Yes, he said quietly. You can call me Knight, Hana smiled. It was small and scared, but it was real. And for the first time in 3 years, Taewon felt like he had made the right choice. The mining facility was cold and dark. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the corridors. Young-suk said the place had been abandoned for 20 years, maybe more. It smelled like rust and old air. Taewon stood guard while Young-suk worked on the communication system. Hana sat nearby, wrapped in a thermal blanket, watching him with curious eyes. She had not spoken much since their escape. Taewon did not push her. Trauma needed time. On the second day, Young-suk finally got through to her contacts. She spoke in whispers Taewon could not hear. When she finished, her face was pale. They want her dead, Young-suk said. Not just the Velkari. All 3 empires. The Terrans, the Hask, everyone. Why? Taewon asked. Young-suk looked at Hana, then back at him. Because of what she can do. Because of what her parents created. She told him about Project Babel. About 2 human scientists, Ji-won and Dae-hyun, who had tried to create a way for different species to communicate perfectly. They had developed neural implants that could translate thoughts directly, bypassing language completely. The technology worked. It worked too well. Hana was their daughter and the first successful subject. She had been born with enhanced neural architecture. She could interface with any computer system. She could communicate with any species through pure thought. And the data chip she carried contained all of her parents' research, plus evidence of something much worse. The Empires found out about the project, Young-suk explained. They realized they could weaponize it, create soldiers who could coordinate perfectly, spies who could read minds. They started their own experiments, stealing children from frontier colonies, forcing the modifications on them. Most of the children died. The ones who survived, she shook her head. Hana's parents discovered what was happening. They tried to expose it. They were killed for it. Taewon felt anger burn in his chest. This was worse than the colony. This was systematic. This was all three empires working together in secret, torturing children for military advantage. The data chip has proof? He asked. Everything. Locations of the facilities, names of the commanders, video evidence. If this information got out, it would destroy governments across the galaxy. So they want Hana dead and the chip destroyed. Then we make sure that does not happen, Taewon said firmly. Young-suk smiled sadly. Against three empires? We're just two people and a child. Two people can be enough. They left the mining facility 3 days later in a salvaged shuttle Young-suk managed to repair. The transport was too damaged to fly. They headed for the outer rim, jumping from one shadow port to another, always moving, never staying long. Hana slowly began to open up. She drew pictures on a data pad, showed them to Taewon, explained each one carefully. This was her mother. This was her father. This was their house before the bad people came. Taewon listened to every word, storing each memory like treasure. He taught her basic self-defense. Human children were fragile compared to Dravik young, so he had to be gentle. But Hana was smart and learned quickly. She liked the meditation exercises best. Taewon showed her how to breathe, how to center herself, how to quiet the noise in her mind. The neural implants gave Hana constant input from electronic devices around her. She could hear the hum of computers, feel the pulse of power systems, sense communication signals like whispers. It was overwhelming. The meditation helped her filter it, control it. My mom used to help me with this, Hana said one evening. She would hold my hand and everything would get quiet. She sounds like she was wise, Taewon said. She was the best. Hana's eyes filled with tears. I miss her. I miss my dad too. They said they would always protect me, but then they died and I was alone and scared and… Taewon pulled her close carefully. His scales were hard and his armor cold, but Hana pressed against him anyway. She cried for a long time. He held her and said nothing, because sometimes that was all you could do. Weeks passed. They moved from station to station. Taewon took small jobs for credits, security work mostly, standing guard at warehouses or escorting merchants, nothing that would attract attention. Young-suk disappeared at one port, said she had to contact people who could help. She never came back. Taewon and Hana were alone. They settled into a routine. Wake up, practice fighting, study languages, eat simple meals, sleep in shifts. Hana started calling him Knight all the time now, sometimes just humming the word when she was happy. It made Taewon's hearts warm every time. One night on a station called Winter's End, Hana had a nightmare. She screamed so loudly that Taewon crashed through the door of her room, blade drawn, ready to fight. But there was no enemy. Just a small girl crying in her bed, tangled in blankets. They were hurting the other children, Hana sobbed. I could feel it in my head. They were screaming and I couldn't help them. Taewon did not understand at first. Then he realized. Hana's abilities were growing. She was picking up thoughts, emotions, signals from far away. She was feeling the pain of other children in the Empire facilities. He carried her to his room and let her sleep in his bunk while he kept watch. She curled up small against his side, her hand gripping his arm. I wish you were my dad, she whispered before falling asleep. Taewon stared at the ceiling for a long time. He had never thought about having children. Dravik warriors did not usually. Their lives were too violent, too short. But looking at this small human girl who trusted him completely, he felt something shift inside him. This was not duty. This was not honor. This was love. The bounty hunter found them 2 weeks later. His name was Kyung-soo, a former Terran special operative. He had been hunting them for months, following rumors and electronic traces. He was good at his job, too good. Taewon was buying food when the attack came. Kyung-soo had explosives and heavy weapons. The marketplace erupted in chaos. People screamed and ran. Taiwan grabbed Hana and moved, his armor taking hits that would have killed an unprotected person. They ran through narrow corridors. Kyung-soo pursued with cold efficiency. He was not trying to kill Taiwan. He was trying to separate them, to get to Hana alone. Taiwan realized this and changed tactics. He found a defensive position in an old storage room and prepared to make a stand. When Kyung-soo came through the door, Taiwan was ready. They fought hard and fast. Kyung-soo was skilled, enhanced with military cybernetics. But Taiwan was fighting for his daughter now, and that made him dangerous. The fight spilled into the corridor. Kyung-soo pulled a plasma knife. Taiwan's blade met it and the weapons locked. They strained against each other, face to face. "She's just a child," Taiwan growled. "She's a weapon," Kyung-soo replied. "The most dangerous weapon in the galaxy." Taiwan headbutted him, broke the lock, and drove his blade through Kyung-soo's shoulder. The bounty hunter fell. As he lay bleeding, he laughed bitterly. "You think you can protect her? They'll never stop coming. Every empire wants her dead or controlled. She's the key to ending all wars, or starting the last one." Then something happened. Hana screamed. Not in fear, in power. Her abilities exploded outward like a shockwave. Everyone within 3 blocks suddenly felt her terror and pain broadcasting directly into their minds. People collapsed. Some cried. Others clutched their heads. Taewon felt it too. A wave of pure emotion that crashed through his mental defenses. He saw through Hana's eyes. Saw her parents dying. Saw herself running and hiding. Saw the terrible loneliness of being hunted. And underneath it all, he felt her love for him. Fierce and bright and absolute. The wave faded. Hana collapsed. Taewon caught her before she hit the ground. She was unconscious, breathing shallow. He checked her pulse. Still alive, but the mental strain had hurt her. Kyung-soo was unconscious too, blood pooling around him. Taewon sealed the wound quickly. The bounty hunter would live, but he would not follow them again. As Taewon picked up Hana and prepared to run, a signal came through on his wrist display. A response to Hana's unintentional broadcast. Coordinates to a hidden location. And a message, "Bring the child. We can help. We can protect. Sanctuary awaits." Taewon did not know who sent the message. It could be a trap. Probably was a trap. But Kyung-soo's words echoed in his mind. They would never stop coming. Alone, he could not protect Hana forever. He needed help. Taewon carried his daughter through the station to the docking bay. She stirred once, opened her eyes slightly. "Knight?" she mumbled. "I am here," he said softly. "Did I hurt people? You protected us both. I'm scared. I know. But I promise you, Hana, I will keep you safe, whatever it takes. Wherever we must go. You are mine now, and I do not abandon my own." Hana smiled weakly and closed her eyes again. Taewon held her close and walked toward their ship, toward the unknown coordinates, toward whatever future awaited them. Behind him, the station's security finally arrived at the scene of destruction. But Taewon was already gone, disappearing into the darkness between stars with the most precious cargo in the galaxy sleeping in his arms. The coordinates led to a rogue planet drifting in deep space far from any star system. Taewon almost missed it. The planet gave off no light, no heat signature, nothing that would show on normal sensors. Only when he followed the exact coordinates did his ship detect the gravitational anomaly. As he approached, defense systems came online. Weapons locked onto his ship. A voice spoke through the communication system. "Identify yourself. I am Taewon. I received coordinates. I have the child Hana with me." There was a long pause. Then the weapons powered down, and a docking bay opened in the planet's surface. Taewon flew in carefully, ready to run at the first sign of betrayal. The bay was large and well-maintained. Dozens of ships sat in neat rows. He saw fighters, transports, even a few military vessels with their original markings painted over. This was more than a hiding place. This was a base. Armed guards met him at the landing ramp. Mixed species, mixed equipment, but professional. They escorted him and Hana through corridors carved into the planet's rock. The walls were lined with lights and power conduits. Doors opened to rooms full of people working at computers, training in gyms, eating in mess halls. This was an army. They brought him to a large chamber that served as a command center. A woman stood at the central display studying tactical maps. She was human, middle-aged with short gray hair and sharp eyes. When she turned to face Taewon, he recognized military bearing in her posture. "I am Young Mi," she said. Former Admiral of the Terran Coalition. Welcome to Sanctuary. Taewon studied her carefully. You lead this place? I do. Along with a council of others who chose conscience over orders. We are the remnant. Deserters, refugees, idealists from all three empires. We work to expose the truth about what our governments do in the shadows. And why should I trust you? Young Mai smiled slightly. You shouldn't, but we're all you have. The empires won't stop hunting Hana. Alone, you'll last maybe another month. With us, she might actually survive to adulthood. Hana stirred in Taewon's arms. She had been sleeping since they left the last station, her mind exhausted from the power she had unleashed. Now her eyes opened and she looked around with confusion. Where are we? Somewhere safe, Taewon said quietly. I hope. A Dravik male approached them. He was younger than Taewon, with green-tinted scales and no warrior scars. He wore technician robes instead of armor. When he spoke, his accent marked him as high-caste educated. Cousin, the Dravik said. I am Taemin. We share bloodline, though distant. I heard you abandoned the warrior path. I did the same, choosing science over battle. Welcome to those of us who chose differently. Taewon was surprised. He had not expected to find family here. You know of me? Everyone knows the High Knight who refused to massacre civilians. You are famous among those of us who deserted. Some call you honorable. Others call you traitor. I call you brave. Young Mai gestured to the displays. We need to show you something. The full truth about Project Babel and what's been happening to children like Hana. What Taewon saw made him want to destroy something. The empires had not just discovered Hana's parents' research. They had stolen it, improved it, weaponized it. All three governments had secret facilities conducting experiments on kidnapped children. Hundreds of children from frontier colonies taken from their families, subjected to forced neural modification. Most died. The modifications were too complex, too invasive. Young minds could not handle the strain. But some survived, and those survivors were being trained as weapons. Child spies who could read computer systems, child soldiers who could coordinate without communication, child interrogators who could sense lies. The images showed children strapped to medical tables, crying, screaming. Scientists in clean uniforms taking notes while kids suffered. Military commanders discussing acceptable mortality rates like they were talking about equipment failure. Taewon felt sick. Hana pressed her face against his armor, her hands over her ears even though the images had no sound. She was feeling the emotions recorded in the data, the pain and fear echoing through time. They're still hurting children, Hana whispered. Right now. I can feel them sometimes when I sleep. Young Mi knelt down to look at Hana directly. That's why we need your help, sweetie. We want to stop them, but we need proof that people will believe. Your parents' research and your existence prove the technology works. If we can show the galaxy what the empires are doing, public pressure will force them to stop. How? Taewon asked. Hana's abilities can broadcast across quantum communication networks, Taemin explained. With the right equipment, she could send the evidence to every major media outlet, every government official, every military base simultaneously. No one could stop the information from spreading, but what? The neural strain would be massive. Even with our help, even with the best equipment, there's a chance it could damage her mind permanently. Or kill her. Taewon's grip on Hana tightened. No, find another way. There is no other way, Young Mi said quietly. We've been fighting this battle for 2 years. We've tried conventional methods. We've tried leaking information to journalists. We've tried diplomacy. Nothing works. The empires control the narrative. They control the media. The only way to break through is to flood every channel simultaneously with undeniable proof. I don't care. I will not risk her life. It's not just her life at stake, Young Mi said. It's hundreds of other children currently in those facilities. It's thousands more who will be kidnapped if we don't stop this. Every day we wait, more children suffer. Taewon looked down at Hana. She was staring up at him with those big eyes, and he could see the weight of decision in them. She understood what they were asking. She was only 6 years old, but trauma and her enhanced mind made her older in some ways. I want to think about it, Hana said quietly. Can I think about it? Young Mi nodded. Of course. Take all the time you need. You're safe here. No one will force you to do anything. They gave Taewon and Hana quarters in the residential section. 2 rooms connected by a door. Simple but clean. Hana collapsed on the bed immediately and fell into deep sleep. Tae-wan sat in a chair watching her breathe, his mind racing with impossible choices. Days passed. Sanctuary was larger than Tae-wan had imagined. Thousands of people lived in the tunnels carved through the rogue planet. There were schools, hospitals, training facilities, even parks with artificial light and real plants. Hana recovered her strength and began exploring. Other children lived here, refugees from various species. She made friends with a young Velkari girl named Jihi and a human boy named Dongmin. They played games, attended classes, laughed like normal children. Tae-wan assisted with security training during the day. At night, he told Hana stories from Dravic history, taught her more meditation techniques, and tried not to think about the decision hanging over them. Taemin visited often. He and Tae-wan talked about family, about the warrior caste, about what it meant to choose your own path. Taemin had left because he wanted to build things rather than destroy them. Tae-wan had left because he refused to destroy the innocent. Both had been called traitors. Both had found something better here. One evening, Hana came to Tae-wan with a serious expression. She had been quiet all day, thinking about something. "Night," she said. "Can I ask you something important?" "Always. If I decide to do the broadcast thing, to help the other children, would you still stay with me, even if it's dangerous?" "Yes, always. But what if I get hurt? What if my brain gets broken and I'm not the same anymore?" Tae-wan knelt down to her level. He took her small hand in his large clawed one, careful not to hurt her. "Then I will take care of you. However you are, whatever happens. You are mine, Hana, that does not change." Tears filled her eyes. "I want you to be my dad, for real. Not just someone protecting me. I want to be your daughter." Something in Tae-wan's chest felt like it would burst. "I would be honored," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "How do Dravics adopt?" Hana asked. "There is a ceremony, a mixing of blood and exchanging of vows. But you are human. I do not know if we can make it work," Hana said firmly. "We'll mix our ways, human and Dravic. That's what we are now, right? Both?" Tae-wan pulled her into a hug. She wrapped her small arms around his neck and held on tight. They stayed like that for a long time. 3 days later, they held the ceremony in Sanctuary's main hall. Taemin officiated, speaking the ancient Dravic words and explaining their meaning. Young Mi added human elements about family being choice rather than blood, about love being stronger than genetics. Tae-wan cut his palm with his blade. Hana pricked her finger with a sterilized needle. They pressed their hands together, mixing their blood. Red and dark blue swirled together. "I vow to protect you," Tae-wan said, "to guide you, to teach you, to stand between you and all harm. You are my daughter now, my family, my heart." "I vow to trust you," Hana said, her voice small but steady, "to learn from you, to make you proud. You are my dad now, my family, my knight." Everyone in the hall cheered. Hana was crying and smiling at the same time. Tae-wan felt more complete than he had in his entire life. That night, after the celebration, Hana sat on her bed looking at the data chip her parents had died to protect. Tae-wan sat beside her. "I've decided," she said quietly. "I want to do the broadcast. I want to save the other children." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. My mom and dad died trying to stop this. I can't let that be for nothing. But night, Dad, I'm scared. I know. I am too. Will you stay with me?" "During the broadcast?" "Every second," Hana smiled. She put the data chip in her pocket and hugged him. "Okay, then I can be brave. Because you're with me." Tae-wan held his daughter and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Young Mi had said they needed to rescue the children from the facilities first. That meant raids, combat, risk. But they would do it together. The remnant, his family, all of them working toward the same goal: to save the innocent, to expose the guilty, to make the galaxy a better place for children like Hana. Planning the raids took 3 weeks. Young Mai and her council identified 3 facilities that held the most children. 1 Terran, 1 Velkari, 1 Hask. They would need to hit all 3 simultaneously. If they attacked only one, the others would kill their prisoners and destroy evidence. It was a massive operation. Nearly all of Sanctuary's combat personnel would be involved. Tae-wan led the team assigned to the Velkari facility. It was the most heavily guarded, built into an asteroid hidden in a military sector. It was also where he would face his past. Before the mission, Tae-wan spent every moment with Hana. They practiced meditation together. She showed him drawings she had made of them together. colorful pictures of a giant alien knight and a small human girl. He told her stories about his childhood, about growing up in the warrior caste, about what honor really meant. "Dad," Hana said one evening, "what if you don't come back?" Taewon chose honesty. "Then Taemin and young me will take care of you. You will be safe here. But I'll be alone. You will never be alone. You have friends here, family, and you will carry my memory, my teachings, my love. Those things do not die when the body dies." Hana hugged him tightly. "Please come back." "I will do everything in my power," he promised. The day of the raids arrived. 3 teams launched simultaneously from Sanctuary. Taewon's team consisted of 20 fighters, mostly former Valkyrie soldiers who had defected. They flew in a captured military transport, using stolen codes to bypass security checkpoints. The asteroid facility appeared on sensors. It looked like a simple mining operation, but Taewon knew better. Beneath the surface were laboratories, prison cells, training rooms. Somewhere inside were children suffering just like Hana had feared. They docked using emergency override codes. Alarms immediately blared. The facility's security forces responded quickly, but Taewon's team was faster. They moved through corridors with practiced efficiency, fighting their way deeper into the asteroid. Taewon led from the front, his ancient blade cutting through modern armor. He moved like water, like wind, like death itself. Years of peaceful living had not dulled his skills. If anything, fighting for a real purpose made him sharper. They reached the laboratory level. Behind sealed doors they found them. Children. Dozens of children from various species, all bearing neural implants, all traumatized and scared. Some were strapped to medical beds. Others sat in cells with blank expressions, their minds broken by torture and experiments. "Get them out," Taewon ordered. "Everyone who can walk, help those who cannot." His team began evacuating children while Taewon and a small squad pushed forward to secure the facility's command center. They needed to download all the data, all the evidence before the Valkyrie could destroy it. That's when he appeared. Knight Commander Sung-ho stood in the corridor ahead, fully armored, blade drawn. Behind him were elite guards, the best warriors the Valkyrie had. The old Dravik's eyes glowed with cold anger. "I should have killed you on that transport," Sung-ho said. "I showed mercy to my former student. I regret that now." "You showed weakness," Taewon replied. "You always did. Following orders without question, that is not strength. It is cowardice. I serve the Dominion. I bring order to chaos. These children are weapons we need to survive in a hostile galaxy. These children are innocents you torture for power." Sung-ho laughed bitterly. "Still clinging to your naive honor? Look around you, Taewon. The galaxy is cruel. The strong dominate. The weak suffer. That is the way of things. We make hard choices so our people can live. You make evil choices and call them necessary." "Evil?" Sung-ho's voice rose. "I have served for 60 years. I have seen empires fall. I have seen billions die in wars that could have been prevented with better weapons, better intelligence. If we must sacrifice a few hundred children to save billions, that is a price I will pay. It is a price I will not." They clashed. Blade met blade with a sound like thunder. Sung-ho was old but still powerful, still skilled. He knew every technique Taewon knew because he had taught them. But Taewon had learned something new in the past months. He had learned to fight not for glory or duty, but for love. Every strike was for Hana. Every dodge was to return to her. Every movement was fueled by the knowledge that a small girl waited for him to come home and tell her stories. They fought through the corridor, destroying equipment, cracking walls. Sung-ho's guards tried to help their commander, but Taewon's squad held them back. This was between master and student. This was between the old way and the new. Finally, Taewon found an opening. His blade slipped past Sung-ho's guard and struck his shoulder, damaging the joint. The commander fell to one knee. Taewon's blade came to rest at his throat. "Kill me," Sung-ho said. "Prove you are no better than what you hate." "No," Taewon said. "You will live. You will stand trial. You will answer for what you did to those children. That is true justice. That is true honor." He knocked Sung-ho unconscious and left him for the cleanup teams. The command center was ahead. Taemin had given him a data device that would copy everything from the facility's computers. He plugged it in and waited while files transferred. Medical records, experiment results, communication logs, all of it saved. The evacuation was complete by the time he returned to the transport. 37 children of various species all rescued. Medical teams were already treating them, giving them water, speaking softly to calm their fear. One small Dravic girl caught Taewan's attention. She had silver scales and haunted eyes, couldn't be more than 4 years old. "What is your name?" Taewan asked gently. "Bora," she whispered. "You are safe now, Bora. No one will hurt you again." She nodded but did not seem to believe him. Taewan understood. Trust would take time to rebuild. The 3 teams returned to Sanctuary within hours of each other. The Terran and Hask raids had been successful too. Nearly 100 children rescued total. The evidence was overwhelming. Now came the hard part, the broadcast. Hana looked tiny in the command center, surrounded by massive quantum communication arrays that Taimin had built, cables connected to her neural implants. Young Mai stood at the controls. Taewan held Hana's hand. "Are you ready?" Young Mi asked. "No," Hana said honestly, "but I'm going to do it anyway. We will monitor your brain activity. If it becomes too dangerous, we will stop." "No, you won't." Hana looked at Young Mi seriously. "Promise me. Whatever happens, you won't stop until the broadcast is complete. The other children need this." Young Mi hesitated, then nodded. "I promise." Taewan wanted to protest, but he understood. This was Hana's choice. This was her fight. All he could do was support her. The broadcast began. Hana's mind expanded outward, touching quantum networks across the galaxy. Her consciousness spread like light through fiber optics, reaching every communication hub, every media outlet, every government computer, and everywhere she went, she carried the evidence. Video files, audio recordings, medical data, names and dates and locations, the truth. Taewan watched monitors showing news stations across the galaxy, suddenly being overridden with the broadcast. Anchors stared in shock as classified documents appeared on their screens. Military bases went into lockdown as command computers displayed evidence of war crimes. Government buildings erupted in chaos as officials realized their secrets were exposed. But the cost was terrible. Hana began to seize. Her body shook. Blood trickled from her nose, her ears. Alarms blared as medical monitors showed dangerous neural activity. Taewan held her tighter, his heart's breaking. "Hana, stay with me," he said. "Please, daughter, stay with me." Then something extraordinary happened. Another presence joined Hana in the network. Taewan felt it through their connected hands, a ghost made of data and love. Dr. Ji-won, Hana's mother, the copy of her consciousness stored in Hana's implants, activated fully for the first time. The ghost wrapped around Hana's mind, shielding her from the worst of the neural strain. Mother and daughter merged in the quantum realm, working together to complete the broadcast. Taewan watched Hana's face relax slightly, a small smile appearing even through the pain. "Mom's here," Hana whispered. "She's helping." "Tell her thank you," Taewan said, his voice breaking. The broadcast lasted 17 minutes. 17 minutes of raw truth flooding across the galaxy. When it finished, Hana collapsed. The ghost of Dr. Ji-won faded, having spent the last of her coherent energy to save her daughter one final time. Taewan caught Hana before she hit the ground. She was unconscious, barely breathing. Medical teams rushed forward. They carried her to the hospital wing and hooked her to life support. Taewan refused to leave her side. For 3 weeks, Hana slept. Her brain had retreated deep within itself, healing from trauma that should have killed her. Taewan kept vigil, telling her stories she could not hear, singing her songs he barely knew, begging her to come back. The galaxy erupted around them. Governments fell. Protests filled the streets of 1,000 worlds. Military officers resigned or were arrested. The secret facilities were stormed by angry citizens and shut down. The children still imprisoned were freed. But Taewan did not care about any of that. He only cared about one small girl who had called him Dad and taught him what it meant to truly live. On the 21st day, Hana opened her eyes. "Night," she said weakly. Taewan felt tears run down his scaled face. "I'm here." "I am here, daughter." "Did it work? Did we save them?" "Yes, you saved them all," Hana smiled. Then she closed her eyes and slept peacefully for the first time in months. The galaxy was changing, but change was messy and violent. Governments across all 3 empires were collapsing. Some officials resigned. Others were arrested. A few chose to fight rather than face justice. Those few were the most dangerous. Warning came to Sanctuary 3 months after the broadcast. A joint military task force was being assembled from hardline elements in all three empires. They had one goal: destroy the remnant and everyone who knew the truth. They blamed Sanctuary for destroying their power, their control. They wanted revenge. Young Mai called a meeting of all residents. Nearly 5,000 people gathered in the main hall. She stood at the center and spoke plainly. A fleet is coming. We estimate 300 ships, maybe more. They will be here in 2 weeks. I am ordering all non-combatants to evacuate immediately. There are hidden colonies on the outer rim who will take you. You will be safe there. What about the fighters? Someone called out. We stay, Young Mi said. We hold them as long as possible. Give the refugees time to escape. We cannot win against 300 ships, another voice said. No, we cannot. But we can make them remember us. We can make them pay for every meter of ground. And maybe, just maybe, we buy enough time for the rest of the galaxy to respond. The truth is out now. People know what was done. Many will support us. Taewon sat with Hana in their quarters that night. She had recovered from the broadcast, but was still weak. Her neural implants had been damaged by the strain. She could no longer interface with computer systems the way she used to. But she was alive, and that was all that mattered to him. I want to stay, Hana said quietly. No, Taewon said firmly. You will evacuate with the other children, but you're staying to fight. I am a warrior. It is what I do. You're my dad. Your job is to stay with me. Taewon felt his heart clench. She was right, of course. His duty was to her above all else. But he also knew that if he ran, if all the fighters ran, the Empire fleet would hunt down every refugee. Someone had to slow them down. I will stay long enough to ensure your escape, he promised. Then I will follow. I will find you wherever you go. Hana did not look like she believed him, but she nodded. The evacuation began immediately. Ships left Sanctuary every hour, carrying refugees to hidden locations. Hana left on the 5th day with Bora and the other rescued children. Taewon held her tight before she boarded. I love you, Dad, Hana said. I love you, daughter, more than all the stars in the sky. Promise you'll come back. Taewon could not promise that. So instead he said, I promise I will try with everything I have. She cried as the ship left. Taewon watched until it disappeared from sensors. Then he went to prepare for war. By the time the Empire fleet arrived, only 800 fighters remained at Sanctuary. They had prepared every defense they could. Mines in the approach vectors, automated weapons platforms, emergency shields. It would not be enough, but it was something. Taewon stood in the command center with Young Mi and Taemin. They watched the fleet emerge from hyperspace. 317 ships from small fighters to massive battle cruisers. The largest fleet assembled in decades. They really want us dead, Taemin said quietly. They fear what we represent, Young Mi replied. The idea that people can choose conscience over orders, that is more dangerous to them than any weapon. The fleet commander opened a communication channel. His face appeared on the screen. A Terran admiral named Han Sol, old and bitter. Surrender now, Han Sol demanded. Give up the criminals who broadcast classified information. Face justice and the rest will be spared. Young Mi laughed. Justice? You want to talk about justice? You tortured children. You conducted illegal experiments. You murdered innocents. We brought the truth to light, and now the galaxy knows what you are. The galaxy knows nothing, Han Sol spat. They see chaos and disorder. Soon they will beg for the old order to return, and we will make an example of you. The communication cut. The fleet advanced. The battle began. Sanctuary's defenders fought with desperate courage. Taewon commanded a squadron of fighters, darting between larger ships targeting weapons and engines. He flew like he fought on the ground with precision and fury. The Empire fleet had numbers, but Sanctuary's fighters had motivation. Every pilot knew what they were protecting. Every gunner understood what would happen if they failed. They fought like cornered animals, inflicting heavy casualties. But it was not enough. One by one, Sanctuary's defenses fell. Weapons platforms were destroyed. Fighters were shot down. The Empire fleet pushed closer to the planet. They began bombardment of the surface installations. Taewon's fighter was hit. He crash-landed in a docking bay and immediately joined the ground defense. Empire soldiers were boarding the station now, fighting room by room through the corridors. He found Taemin directing the evacuation of the last refugees. A medical ship was loading wounded and scientists who had refused to leave earlier. Go, Taewon told his cousin. Get them out of here. What about you? I stay. Someone must delay them. Taemin grabbed his arm. You promised Hana you would try to come back. I am trying. This is how I try. They looked at each other, understanding passing between them. Taemin nodded once, then ran for the medical ship. Taewon watched it launch, praying it would make it through the blockade. The Empire soldiers reached his position. Taewon held a narrow corridor, his blade singing through the air. He was one warrior against hundreds, but the corridor was narrow and he was very, very good. He fought for hours. His armor was scorched and cracked. His muscles burned, but he did not stop. Could not stop. Every second he held them here was another second for refugees to escape. Then disaster struck. The Empire soldiers used explosives, collapsing part of the corridor. Taewon was thrown back by the blast. When he tried to stand, he realized his leg was broken. He could not walk, could barely move. They were coming to finish him. Taewon raised his blade, preparing to die on his feet. Then he heard a sound that made his heart stop. A child's voice broadcasting through every speaker in the station. Leave him alone. Hana, she had not evacuated. Somehow she had stayed behind, hidden, and now her voice filled the station and echoed into space. But more than her voice, she was broadcasting feelings, memories, emotions. Every Empire soldier suddenly felt what Taewon felt. They experienced his love for Hana, his devotion, his willingness to die so she could live. They felt his memories of holding her hand, teaching her to meditate, promising to always protect her. And they felt Hana's love in return. Her joy at calling him dad, her gratitude for being saved, her absolute faith that he was good and kind and worth fighting for. The soldiers stopped advancing. Some lowered their weapons. Others simply stood frozen, tears on their faces. But Hana was not done. Her power evolved beyond anything her parents imagined, reached out further. Every soldier on every ship in the fleet suddenly connected. They felt each other's emotions. The Terrans felt the Velkari memories of lost children. The Hask felt the human grief of destroyed homes. All of them felt the terror and pain of the children they had come here to silence. And they felt Taewon and Hana. One alien knight and one human girl. Two souls bound by love that transcended species and logic and all the artificial divisions that empires created. The fleet began to fragment. Ship captains refused orders. Crews mutinied against commanders. Some vessels simply turned and left. Others actively moved to protect sanctuary. The carefully coordinated assault dissolved into chaos. Admiral Han Sol screamed orders that no one followed. His own officers arrested him. The joint task force, built on lies and hatred, could not stand against the simple truth of love and family. Hana appeared in the corridor, running toward Taewon despite the danger. Bora and several other children were with her, all of them having refused to leave. I told you to evacuate, Taewon said weakly. You're my dad, Hana replied, kneeling beside him. I don't leave you behind. Empire soldiers stood around them but made no move to attack. Some were crying. Others looked confused, like they had woken from a dream. One soldier, a young Velkari, approached slowly. We did not understand, the soldier said. What we were fighting for, what we were protecting, but we see it now, we feel it. Forgive us. More ships were arriving now, but these were different. Civilian vessels from across the galaxy, responding to Hana's broadcast. They came to defend Sanctuary, to protect the people who had exposed the truth. The Empire fleet, what remained of it, retreated without firing another shot. The battle was over. Sanctuary had survived. 5 years passed. The station was rebuilt and expanded. It became a recognized neutral territory, protected by treaty from all three empires. But more importantly, it became a school. Children from across the galaxy came here, especially those with special needs or abilities. They learned in safety, grew in peace, found family in each other. Hana stood at a podium in the memorial garden, now 11 years old. She wore a simple dress and her hair was longer. Her neural implants had been partially removed, limiting her abilities but ending her pain. She could still sense emotions if she tried, but the constant noise was gone. We remember, Hana said to the gathered crowd. We remember Dr. Jiwon and Dr. Daehyun, who gave their lives to protect the truth. We remember all the children who suffered in the Empire facilities. We remember those who fought so we could be free. We remember and we promise to build a better future. Applause filled the garden. Delegates from all three empires sat in the audience, along with military officers, journalists, and common citizens. The empires were different now. Still imperfect, still struggling, but genuinely trying to be better. Taewon stood at the back of the crowd. He no longer wore his armor. It hung in a museum now, a symbol of the old warrior ways. He dressed simply like any civilian, though his scales and size still marked him as Dravik. Beside him stood Bora, now 9 years old and healthy, one of several children he had informally adopted over the years. Also present were 3 other younglings of various species, all rescued from Empire facilities, all part of his growing family. After the ceremony, Hana ran to him and hugged him fiercely. He lifted her easily despite his aging joints. The injury from the battle had healed, but he would always have a slight limp now. Small price to pay. Good speech, he said. You think so? I was nervous. You were perfect. Young Mi approached them, now serving as Sanctuary's official governor. Taemin walked beside her. The two had grown close over the years. Behind them came delegates from the Terran Coalition, bearing official documents. The Sanctuary Accords are ready for signing, Young Mi said. Legal protections for children. Ban on forced neural modification. Penalties for governments who conduct illegal experiments. It is everything we fought for. Not everything, Taewon said quietly, but it is a good start. They walked together toward the signing ceremony. Hana held Taewon's hand, chattering about her day, her friends, her plans to study xenobiology so she could help other species understand each other. Bora walked on his other side, quiet but content. Representatives from all 3 empires signed the accords. It was symbolic more than anything. Laws only worked if people chose to follow them. But symbols mattered. This symbol said that children were precious, that experimenting on innocence was wrong, that individuals could change the galaxy if they were brave enough. That night, Taewon sat in the garden with his children. They looked at the stars through the dome overhead. Hana leaned against his side. Do you ever miss being a knight? She asked. Taewon considered the question. He thought about his old life. The glory, the honor, the respect of the warrior caste. Then he looked at the children around him, his family, his purpose. No, he said honestly. I was a knight. Now I am something better. I am a father. Hana smiled and hugged him tighter. The best dad in the galaxy. I do not know about that. I do. You gave up everything for me. You fought an entire fleet. You stayed when you could have run. That is what dads do. They stay. Bora nodded seriously. The other children murmured agreement. Taewon felt warmth spread through his chest. This was what he had been searching for all his life without knowing it. Not glory in battle. Not honor through service. But love through connection. Family through choice. An alien knight who swore no loyalty to any empire had found something worth more than any oath. He had found a daughter who called him dad, and in doing so, she had saved him just as surely as he had saved her. They sat together in the garden watching the stars, planning tomorrow. Grateful for today. The galaxy was still imperfect, still struggling, still learning, but it was better than it had been, and it would continue to improve. One small choice at a time, one act of kindness, one family built on love rather than blood. Taewon closed his eyes and felt peace. True peace. The kind that comes not from the absence of conflict, but from knowing you fought for something that mattered, something that would last long after you were gone. His children would carry on. They would remember. They would teach their own children someday about the alien knight and the human girl who changed the galaxy. And maybe, just maybe, those future generations would be kinder, wiser, better than the ones that came before. That was the real victory. That was the real honor. Not in the fighting, but in what came after. Not in the glory, but in the quiet moments like this, surrounded by family, watching the stars. Taewon opened his eyes and smiled. Hana looked up at him. What are you thinking about, Dad? How lucky I am, he said simply. To have found you. To have all of you. We're the lucky ones, Hana said. You taught us what it means to be brave. To choose what is right even when it is hard. You taught me what it means to love, Taewon replied. They stayed in the garden until late, telling stories, laughing, planning the future. And when they finally returned to their quarters, Taewon tucked each child into bed just as he did every night. When he reached Hana's room, she was already half asleep. He pulled the blanket up to her chin. Dad? She murmured. Yes? Promise you'll never leave. I promise. For you, daughter, always. Hana smiled and fell asleep. Taewon watched her breathe for a moment. This small human child who had given meaning to his life then quietly left the room. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The galaxy was still healing. There was work to do, children to teach, treaties to maintain. But tonight everything was perfect. Tonight an alien knight was simply a father, and that was enough.